Karol Nawrocki, winning Poland's presidential election.
The great success of the independent candidate and Polish conservatives is widely discussed in the American media. On Newsmax TV, journalism legend Rita Cosby hosted former Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki.
Here to discuss is the former Prime Minister of Poland, our dear friend and America's friend, Mateusz Morawiecki.
Questions immediately arose about Karol Nawrocki, whom Donald Trump supported, about what kind of president he will be and what values he defends.
He is a very patriotic type of guy, Republican, and he truly believes in sovereign states type of European Union, and a great believer in Polish-American friendship, Polish-American relationship. So he will do everything possible for this left and leftist liberal government, which is still in office in Poland, to not to destroy the Polish-American relations. It's great new era starting for Poland.
An era based on fundamental values, family, security, and economy. These have proven to be the most important for Polish people. Values such as family, which is the basic link in the social structure and a factor of stability. People prefer stability and gradual changes adapted to changing conditions, mainly economic and market conditions. The vision of a Poland resistant to the dictates of Berlin or Brussels, forming strong alliances and strengthening its own security prevailed. Thanks to the people, I am filled with great enthusiasm. I would like to thank everyone from the bottom of my heart, those Polish women and men who for 6 months gave me deep faith and hope that I would succeed and win these elections. For all your donations, I want to thank the Gazeta Polska clubs, the viewers of TV Republica, all the employees and camera operators for being with me. It was truly a good time. Conservatives in Poland are growing in strength. This was evident, for example, during the international CPAC conference organized in Rzeszów, which we showed you extensively on TV Republica. Among the guests was Kristi Noem, responsible for internal security in the United States. By electing Karol Nawrocki and Donald Trump, Poles and Americans have spoken out in favor of the same values. Among other things, they have clearly opposed illegal immigration. Donald Trump's support during the election campaign was of considerable importance and signaled the continuation of good cooperation between the presidential palace and the White House.
History is very important, but the future is even more important for him, for us. And what's very important about him is that he would understand completely how important the geopolitical shifts are, which we face today. We know that the United States has to revert a little bit to Indo-Pacific area, and this is why the resources are always scarce, and this is why the United States needs such an indispensable ally as Poland.
In last week's elections, Poles thwarted many of the coalition's nefarious plans. The new president will not agree to push Americans out of Europe or to listen to dictates of Berlin and Brussels, accept illegal immigrants, or abandon major projects. In my first initiatives, I will call for a return to our dreams and aspirations, to the central transportation port. I will carefully monitor the state of public finances. Poles and counties and municipalities are waiting for the return of major projects that the United Right governments managed to carry out and implement. A week ago, Polish people made it clear that they are betting on Poland's security and development. Scenes of chaos in the streets, burning cars and looted stores. The protests in Los Angeles spiraled out of control and turned into a full-scale war after 2 days of chaos that local authorities were unable to handle. U.S. President Donald Trump decided to send 2,000 National Guard troops to Los Angeles. Only reinforcements from Washington, D.C. were able to bring the situation under control. It all started with an operation by the authorities to detain a dozen or so illegal immigrants.
They're coming out.
This is what it looked like when the nighttime attempt to storm a local jail in Los Angeles was repelled. Several hundred protesters, mostly from Mexico, tried to enter the building where illegal immigrants were being held. For 2 days, clashes have been taking place in the suburbs of Los Angeles between groups of left-wing activists and immigrants on the one hand, and the police, border guards, and immigration services on the other. It was the agents of the latter who were attacked while carrying out an operation to detain a dozen or so people on the deportation list.
But what occurs is if federal agents who are here doing immigration enforcement come under attack, they're going to ask for help. And for us at the Sheriff's Department or any law enforcement agency around us, we are going to support any other law enforcement agency that's asking for help. The help is if they're under violent attack or something of that nature, not because they need help picking somebody up under doing just strictly civil immigration enforcement.
There has been a dispute between Washington, D.C. and Los Angeles for weeks over the enforcement of immigration laws. Democrats are demanding advance notice of planned actions. This is being exploited by activist groups and immigrants themselves who are attacking federal authorities.
And I think that one of the big issues is just lack of communication from the authorities when something like this happens, so that we could have a better handle and be better prepared to educate our residents.
The problem is that officers do not want to notify local authorities because, according to federal services, they passed on information about planned raids to activists and immigrants themselves. Left-wing groups also accuse the authorities of concealing the identity of officers who wear masks and glasses during interventions.
2 weeks ago in Los Angeles, where we ran an operation where ICE officers were doxxed. So let's just say that again. People are out there taking photos of the names, their faces, and posting them online with death threats to their family and themselves. So I'm sorry if people are offended by them wearing masks, but I'm not going to let my officers and agents go out there and put their lives on the line and their family on the line because people don't like what immigration enforcement is.
In connection with the chaos in Los Angeles, Donald Trump decided to send 2,000 soldiers from his National Guards to California. Great job by the National Guard in Los Angeles after 2 days of violence, clashes, and unrest. We have an incompetent governor and mayor who were, as usual, just look at how they handled the fires, and now they're very slow permitting disaster. Federal permitting is complete, unable to handle the task. These radical left protests by instigators and often paid troublemakers will not be tolerated. Also, from now on, masks will not be allowed to be worn at the protests. What do these people have to hide and why? Again, thank you to the National Guard for a job well done. Federal authorities have introduced a zero-tolerance policy for illegal immigrants. During the first 3 months of the operation, over 35,000 illegal immigrants with criminal records were arrested across the United States. The vast majority were deported to their countries of origin. For the second day in a row, Kharkiv in northeastern Ukraine has been experiencing the largest attack since the beginning of the war. 4 people have been killed and dozens injured. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky reminds the international community that Russia feels unpunished, and according to U.S. Pentagon data, this is only the beginning. U.S. intelligence warns that Russia is planning a massive strike on Ukraine in the coming days. This is in response to Ukraine's Spider's Web operation, in which dozens of Russian aircraft were destroyed at 4 military airfields. About 50,000 Russian soldiers are concentrated near the border to carry out a ground offensive on Kharkiv. Ukrainian soldiers have already begun evacuating civilians from the border area. Military analysts believe that Moscow is trying to regain as much Ukrainian territory as possible in order to be able to sit down at the negotiating table with a strategic advantage. Hence, the intensified airstrikes, which may mark the beginning of a summer offensive aimed at the border town of Kharkiv. After 47 years, a second Polish astronaut will fly into space. Sławomir Uznański's mission is a unique opportunity for Polish science.
Zaczęliśmy odliczać.
We started counting down the days when we began training with Axiom last August, and we can't wait for the final countdown. 3, 2, 1, launch.
2, 1, start.
And that's when the Falcon 9 rocket with the SpaceX Dragon capsule will launch 4 daring astronauts from the United States, India, Hungary, and Poland toward the International Space Station. The last few days have been a time of isolation and intensive review of all procedures for the astronauts.
Mamy pełen
We have a full day filled with various commitments. We review procedures and undergo training for our experiments, which will be conducted in orbit. The latest training sessions, for example, focus on how we will dock with the space station. After docking with the station, the Polish astronaut will conduct 13 experiments prepared by Polish scientists over a period of 16 days. These experiments concern, among other things, artificial intelligence, new materials, biotechnology, and medicine. We will study how the human body behaves in orbit and in microgravity conditions, which is important for the mission, but also from the point of view of how the human body behaves in extreme situations. The key decision to send a Pole into space again was made in 2023 during the Law and Justice government by the Minister of Development and Technology at the time, Waldemar Buda. I am in contact with Sławomir and I am very happy about that. As a Pole, I am proud that we have a second person who will be part of a space mission. Every space mission has not only scientific, but also symbolic significance. It is meant to spark the imagination of young people and inspire future generations with science, engineering, and space exploration. Space travel has always been fascinating. The best place to see this is here, at the Air and Space Museum in the heart of Washington, D.C. Every day there are long queues of people who are eager to see spacesuits, capsules, and space rockets. Who knows? Perhaps among these young people are future astronauts who will travel to Mars or Jupiter. And this may only be the beginning of extraterrestrial discoveries and explorations, according to employees of the Polish Space Agency.
It's a great question about what space can do for our everyday lives, and I think the International Space Station, which is the destination for the Axiom 4 mission, is a perfect example of how space can affect us down here on Earth. So the International Space Station is a laboratory that's been in orbit for over 25 years now, and essentially there have been thousands of experiments that have been done on the ISS, many of which have applications on the ground.
Tuesday's mission is intended to be a clear signal that Poland wants to be part of humanity's great dreams. We definitely want to take part in this adventure of exploring other celestial bodies, whether it be the Moon or Mars.